Welcome back to the Hen House Files, where the truth is clucking terrifying. Today's tale is about a couple who had dreams of building a hotel in the shell of an old asylum. But when their first guest arrives, the past comes screaming back, louder than ever. Grab your feathers, friends. This one's not over easy. Rachel and Drew Bennett had spent the last 5 years flipping houses together. Their YouTube channel, The Bennett Build, was a modest hit, showing before and after renovation projects, always with a little banter, a lot of power tools, and the occasional cat cameo from their Maine coon, Crouton. But in early spring of 2022, they stumbled on a property in upstate New York that changed everything. Listed for a fraction of what it should have cost, $140,000 for a sprawling 120,000 square foot complex. The building was once the Ridgeway Psychiatric Hospital, shuttered since 1974. Despite the cracked windows, weather-worn bricks, and the air of neglect clinging to the place like mold, Rachel saw potential. Drew saw dollar signs. They wanted to do something bigger than houses. They wanted a legacy. So they bought it. Locals in Ridgeway were not exactly thrilled. Whispers followed them at the grocery store. One man in his 70s, a former janitor at the hospital, muttered as he passed, "Leave room 6 locked. If you know what's good for you." They thought he was just senile. They shouldn't have. The first 3 months were smooth, even exciting. They filmed everything: the peeling back of asbestos tiles, the discovery of old gurneys and rusted restraints, even the unsettling amount of child-sized straitjackets. Rachel made jokes about ghosts. Drew posted time-lapses of the demolition. Crouton seemed unbothered until he started refusing to enter the East Wing. By month 4, the new drywall was up. Plumbing and electricity were restored. The couple chose to live in a small finished section on the top floor while finishing the rest. Then the strange things began. A hammer would go missing and show up in a locked closet no one had touched. Lights flickered, sometimes spelling out what looked like Morse code. Crouton began to hiss at the corners of empty rooms. Rachel started waking up to the sound of distant humming, like an old woman rocking back and forth, humming lullabies. Still, they pressed on. One day, Rachel noticed room 6 didn't appear on the floor plans. It was at the end of the East Wing, down a narrow hallway lined with patient rooms they had already cleared out. But room 6 wasn't labeled. It had no window, no record, no electrical outlet, and no key. The door was solid steel, painted over dozens of times. Rust crept around the handle like veins. Rachel got a strange headache standing in front of it, like something behind the door was pushing outward. Drew, ever the pragmatist, tried to force it open with a crowbar. He broke the crowbar. "We'll come back to it," he muttered. They covered it with a bookshelf and moved on. But from that night forward, the humming returned, louder, clearer. Sometimes it sounded like it was coming from the walls. 6 months after they began, the hotel was ready. It was beautiful. Industrial chic meets cozy Gothic. They named it the Ridgeway Retreat and opened bookings online. Their first guest arrived on a rainy Thursday in October. Her name was Evelyn Rhodes. Mid-40s, traveling alone, no social media presence, and most notably, she requested room 6. Rachel was confused. "Room 6 isn't listed." She typed it in. Drew said, showing her the reservation, "It's handwritten. Special request. Room 6, please. I've waited long enough." Rachel's heart sank. She can't stay there. We haven't even opened that room. But when Evelyn arrived, she was insistent. Her eyes were pale gray, almost cloudy, her movements deliberate, like she was pulling herself through water. "You advertised a unique experience," she said with a soft smile. "Room 6 is the most unique." Drew tried to give her another suite, but she refused. "Unlock it," she whispered, "or I'll hum it open myself." Rachel dreamt of fire that night. Screams echoed down endless white hallways. When she woke, her hands were blistered, as if she touched something scalding in her sleep. Drew finally agreed to try opening room 6 again. The bookshelf had been moved on its own, and the door was ajar. They found Evelyn inside. She sat cross-legged in the center of the room, humming. The walls were covered in symbols scratched into plaster, symbols that hadn't been there before. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Thank you. Now the others can come." That night, the fire alarms went off, but there was no fire, only shadows moving across the cameras, always in threes, always heading toward room 6. Digging through the local archives, Rachel found that Ridgeway Psychiatric was shut down after a scandal. Room 6, also known internally as the Restraint Nursery, had housed irredeemable patients, many of them children, subjected to experimental silence therapy. The idea was that if you could break a child's voice, you could break their mind. They used music boxes, humming, repetitive lullabies. Those who screamed were punished. Those who went quiet were praised. Most went catatonic. Some vanished. One girl, named Evelyn Rhodes, reportedly died in room 6 in 1969. Her death was ruled undetermined. The next few bookings came without explanation. People who looked lost, hollow. A man in a priest's collar who never blinked. A woman with fingernails chewed to the bone. A boy who didn't speak but hummed constantly. Each of them requested room 6. Each time, Evelyn greeted them. Each time, Drew and Rachel found more scratches on the walls, more voices on the security feed. Then came the night the door locked from the inside. Crouton vanished. Rachel found claw marks on the bathroom mirror. She packed a bag, told Drew they had to leave. But Drew stayed. "I see them," he whispered. "They hum to me now. They just want to be remembered." He closed the door behind him. Rachel uploaded one last video to their channel. It was short, shaky. She stood outside the Ridgeway retreat, wind blowing her hair sideways. "I don't care if you think this is for views. I don't care if you believe me. But do not book a room here, especially room 6. It's not a room. It's a mouth. And once it opens, it doesn't close." She turned the camera. In the window behind her, Evelyn stood, smiling. Behind her stood Drew. And behind him, dozens of shadowed figures, humming. And that, feathered friends, is why you should always read the fine print before you check in. Because some places don't want your money. They want your memories. Or worse, your silence.